7 months after Chipotle closed its Augusta store, former employees say they have reached a settlement. In addition to a monetary settlement, the company must also post notices in their New England stores that it won't close stores or discriminate against employees due to union support. Kodichi Lawrence has more.
Former workers of the Chipotle here in Augusta announced a settlement with the fast food chain after Chipotle closed its doors last year when the workers tried to form a union. Brandy McNeese, co-founder of Chipotle United, says the fight was not easy, but it was worth it.
$240,000 in back pay and forward pay.
To be divided among the 24 employees on the roster July 19th of last year.
This is the amount that Chipotle would have spent on labor had they not closed down the store, and a small amount of forward pay.
Ethan Watts was an employee and says this was never about the money.
The union was really a means to an end to make sure that we had the amount of staffing and training and time for everybody there so that they all had a chance to be safe on the job.
He says safety was one of the concerns they had before they rallied together to demand a change, and recalls the day he says they had enough.
There were, I think, 2 people manning an entire kitchen that was meant for at the least 7 people.
The National Labor Relations Board found that Chipotle broke the federal law when they closed the store hours before a union hearing, although Chipotle says the closing has nothing to do with the union activity. McNeese says the settlement agreement also includes preferential hiring for the former workers.
At any time in the next 90 days, anyone employed on the day we were shut down can ask to be hired at another Chipotle location in the area and will be hired before any other applicant.
Chipotle said in a statement in part, "We settled this case not because we did anything wrong, but because the time, energy, and cost to litigate would have far outweighed the settlement agreement. We respect our employees' rights to organize under the National Labor Relations Act and are committed to ensuring a fair and just work environment that provides opportunities to all." Meanwhile, McNeese says this settlement shows that workers have the power to make a change.
We really wanted to send the message that corporations who are feeling like they have too much money to follow the laws don't.
Kodichi Lawrence, WABI TV5 News, Augusta.